welcome to another episode of, well, this is a special edition of Stuck in My Mind podcast. Uh, um, I'm excited for my next guest. She has an amazing story. When I heard of her story, I was like, oh, this is someone I have to have on my show, especially me being a widower. It was very important that I have her come share her story. So, welcome to the show, Vicki Goodman. Hello.
Hello, Wise. I'm so happy to be here. Thank you.
Oh, the pleasure's all mine. Like I was telling you before, when I received the message about you, and I was like, oh yes, I definitely got to have her on my show. She's someone that it means a lot to me, being someone who suffered a tragic loss like that. And even recently, I just this been the past month, I buried my mom, so it was some more hurt involved recently with me. But I'm just excited to have you on the show.
Yes, thank you. I know you have experienced quite a lot of loss in recent years and even not so recent years. So I am happy to be here to kind of share our stories together. Yeah.
Awesome, welcome. All right. So can you let's just jump right into it. Can you share the inspiration behind writing to Sam with love, and how the process helped you with your healing journey?
Yes. So Sam was my husband of almost 22 years. We got married kind of late in life. He was the love of my life. He being married to such a man, such a good man, really changed my whole outlook on life. And even after Sam died, I still had a self-confidence and a peace in my own being that came from having been married to him. So we retired to Arizona from California in 2016 and moved into our new house in Arizona. And then almost immediately got Sam's cancer diagnosis. And he lived another 2 years and he did well for about a year and a half. It was the last 6 months that was kind of the downhill slide. And after he died, well, let me back up a little. I was raised in a very secular household. God and religion were anathema to my parents and grandparents and all of my other relatives for as far as the eye could see. But I had already begun to sort of believe in a higher power, but that belief was very rudimentary. But when Sam died, I thought, I need a reason to believe in an afterlife, and I need my faith in God strengthened. And this is where serendipity that happened in so many different ways before and after Sam died started to play into this. For instance, someone recommended a story for me to read about a near-death experience of a neurosurgeon who knows what the brain is capable of when under siege from a massive infection. And so his story, which I go into in more depth in my book, really took me the rest of the way to believing in God and an afterlife. And so many serendipitous things began to happen. Like, for example, um, I started to get this sort of cloudy thing in my view when I would go to bed at night, laying in the dark, but before I went to sleep. And I tell the story in the book of how that was actually confirmed to be the manifestation of Sam's soul. I know it sounds weird. It sure would have to me before this happened, but it's a great story. And so anyway, with all of these serendipitous events happening and all these opportunities and insights coming my way that seemed to come from outside myself. This wasn't my nature. After 2 years of experiencing all of these things, I decided the story could help others. So I wrote a book about it, To Sam with Love, a surviving spouse's story of inspired grief. And there we have it. And inspired grief, I will acknowledge, is sort of an oxymoron. And I thought about changing that in the subtitle of the book, but I thought, you know what? I'm not going to change it because it's exactly what I experienced. Yeah.
No, I love the title. It's funny that you meant is say inspired grief because that's what I'm kind of going through right now with the passing of my mom. Is I'm more inspired by her now, and now that I look at all the wonderful things she did, all the just the beautiful person she was in general, and I find myself, yes, I find myself grieving and hurting, but then I reflect and look at the person she was, and and the last year has been rough. Like seeing her in the state that she was, and just struggling at the end. I just didn't want to remember her that way. I focus more on the person I knew growing up, the person she was when I was growing up, the person who wouldn't let anyone starve, wouldn't let anyone sleep in the streets. She made sure that if someone she knew needed a home or needed somewhere to stay, her door was always open. And just the beautiful person that she was. So that's where I focus. And so when you said in inspiring grief, and that's how I look at it now. When I'm grieving her now, it's more inspiration. It's more me looking like, okay, she's no longer here physically, but I know she's here with me spiritually, and she's always around me. And so I just looked at it as like the other day. It was a real emotional day for me, and I spent the day just crying. And I was scheduled to be a guest on the podcast, and I didn't know if I was going to be able to do it because I was just crying, just couldn't stop. And when the time came for me to do the show, I got my emotions in check, did the show. It went well. We had a great time, had a great conversation. And as soon as the show ended and I got offline and I got back, I started crying again. And it was just, but it wasn't like a sad cry. It was just something I just had to let out, and 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 just it just felt right to me.
Mm-hmm. You know, one of the things that really was striking about my experience was that I didn't cry very much. I expected when Sam died, I expected to be devastated and lost for a good long time. But it didn't happen that way. Even the day he died, I kind of saw sunlight shining through on what I thought would be the cloudiest day of my life. And that is when the unexpected things really started to happen. It's not that I didn't grieve, I certainly did. I had a lot of sadness at various times, but I also had this optimism that was really uncharacteristic of me, of my nature. I'm not a pessimistic person, but I'm not particularly optimistic. I'm kind of middle of the road. And I was experiencing all this optimism, and it's looking back on it all now, it's almost as if God chose me to be a messenger of a different way of looking at death and loss, a more positive way of looking at it. So that's why I wrote the book. And it's why I recorded 3 audio episodes that I'll tell the listeners about at the end of our interview. That's going to be a free gift to them because some of these insights came to me after I published the book, and they're in the audio episodes. Something you said, though, about how you couldn't quite remember your mom at first the way she had been. It took some time before you could see anything but the suffering. And I went through that with Sam's death. I couldn't remember our good times together. He'd been a very funny man, and I couldn't remember his jokes or his delivery. I couldn't remember his voice. I was struggling to remember all the good times we had in our marriage. And I told myself, Vicki, just give it time because you've been experiencing his diagnosis and treatment and his slide downward toward death for a couple of years now. The memories will come back. And that was another piece of optimism that was kind of uncharacteristic of me. And I was right, the memories did come back. Took a few months, but they just came flooding back over time. So thank goodness that happened because I would not have wanted to go forward not being able to remember Sam the way he had been and our marriage the way it had been.
It was amazing with my mom because even at the end, like when she knew when she knew it was the end, it was just we was just in the hospital. We was having a conversation, and in Spanish, I asked her a question. And my mom she had a very funny sense of humor, and I asked her a question, and her response was classic her, that it just had us all laughing. We just everybody that was in the room at that time just broke down laughing, and it was her putting us at ease. It was her way of letting us know like I know what the time is near, but I want to let y'all know that I'm good with that. I've accepted it and I'm ready. And that for us was a rare moment, and it really was something that like really kind of prepared us to to let help with the transition because I felt had it not been for that, we would have probably held on to her longer than she really wanted, and that was just her way of letting us know like time is near, and I just want y'all to let you know that I'm fine with it, that I've come to terms with it, and it was just it kind of put me at ease and helped me accept for what was to come.
It seems to me that was her gift to you among many, maybe her
Yeah,
last gift to you. Uh-huh. Is
yeah,
that the
no,
way you look at it?
it was yeah, no, it was just the fact that she was still at that time knowing that you're dying, and or maybe she was knowing that you're dying and still trying to make us feel at peace and still trying to make us laugh and that's just her. That was just her nature. That was just she was just to the end. It was who she was.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah, that was a gift. I'm convinced that that was a gift to you and her other loved ones.
So in the middle portion of your book, where you and Sam navigate his terminal diagnosis and treatment, what messages do you hope readers take away from that part of your journey?
Well, that part, that part is difficult to say because you're kind of struggling during an ordeal like that to just do the best you can because not only do you know that the love of your life is going to die because there was no chance according to Sam's doctors that he would live, so you're kind of doing anticipatory grief while all this is going on. But I would say be open to learning about yourself during this time because one of the things that I now consider a gift is that I learned something very important about myself. That was that I could take care of Sam. I'm not the caregiver type. Anybody who knows me will tell you that. I'm just not that selfless caregiver type. And I wasn't sure I was sure I could take care of Sam, but I wasn't sure I could do it without resenting it. Well, I got the gift of knowing that I could take care of Sam when he needed me in those last 6 months of his life without resenting it one bit. I did everything I needed to do cheerfully. And I was so afraid I wouldn't be able to do that. But here I am telling you honestly and truthfully that I did every bit of it without resenting it at all. And I think it was because I loved Sam so much, but also because I knew that this was something I had to do. And I wanted badly to do it well. So be open to learning things about yourself. That was mine. Everyone's going to have something different. See, I believe now that this is all said and done, one of the insights I received was that God has a plan for each of us, and we are meant to learn things from certain experiences. And this was one of mine. Getting through a caregiving experience in a positive, productive, effective, I don't know what the right word is, way.
Yeah. Oh, I definitely I dealt with it kind of for years. At first, I kind of I was angry. I was angry, and because it was at first it was just like one loss after another, and
Mhm.
I was angry with God. I was angry with spirit, whatever you want. It I just felt like, why me? Why me? And it wasn't until that voice in my head kind of told me, like, it's not you. It wasn't. It's just, it's not happening personally to you. Yes, you're suffering this loss. Yes, but it's not happening to you. It's happening around you. You're losing those that you love, and I was in a very bad place. I was just not. And they said, this is not you. This is not what we have in store for you. This is not the future that. This is not you. You're much better than this. You're meant. You're meant to do more than what you're doing. And so when that started hitting me, and I really started realizing that, yes, I lost my wife, I lost my dad, I lost my two brothers. It was just it was just part of life. And it wasn't happening directly to me. It wasn't God punishing me. It wasn't him saying, "Oh, you're such a horrible person that I'm gonna strike these people from my life." It wasn't that. But I couldn't think of it like I just couldn't grasp that. And when that voice told me, listen, this isn't your path. This isn't where you're supposed to be. It kind of lit, the anger kind of went away. People don't understand. It was just something that where I'm like, I'm no longer angry. I'm like, I've accepted what has happened. I know that I'm meant to do more than what I was doing. And when I finally decided that, my life started shifting. Things started happening in place. I remarried. Um, I moved my family from New York City to the mountains of Pennsylvania, and just so many different things started happening, and my life started changing, and it, it, it was it was it was amazing because I went from being angry and feeling like the world was just attacking me to where I no longer felt this anger, and things started happening that just life just started getting better. Things started happening, and it was just me finally learning how to grieve. I guess it was kind of how it was me learning how to grieve, and I had to go through the experiences I went through to get to where I'm at now. And I kind of say that my wife prepared me because she introduced me to the world of self development and wanting to improve and wanting to grow and wanting to learn. And even though I kind of stepped away from that, when I got back into it, it was just like, okay, this is where I'm supposed to be at. This is my path. Where this is what I'm supposed to be doing is wanting to help people and wanting to show people that regardless of what you've been through in your life, whatever loss or anything, you can overcome it, and you can come out a better person from it. And so the podcast was born. This is why I do my podcast, is to have and to have people come share their stories and share their journeys, so that other people out there realize, like, there's a lot of people out here going through struggles and going through things in life. It's how we respond.
I agree completely. And, one thing that I learned so many things through this experience, but I think the most striking is that we need to be open to the opportunities to grow. Your path is very different from mine, but it's very similar in one way because we both finally saw what was in front of us and realized, oh, something you said really, really connected. And that was when you said you realized this was a part of life. You weren't just seeing it as death, you realized that everything that was happening was just a part of life. And it's true. And it's meant, I'm convinced all of these things are meant to teach us things. Not everyone is meant to, for example, spend their entire life with one person, even if that person was the love of your life. Maybe you have more than one soulmate, for
Mm-hmm.
example. Maybe your life was meant to be more compartmentalized so that you could learn the lessons that are planned for you. And this opens up a world of possibilities. It did for me once I realized all of this. And so that's why I want to pass this message and so many others along through my book and through the audio episodes that I've recently recorded. And I hope this is making sense to people, because I really think that if I can communicate all of this properly and effectively, that it will help people who lose people they love and just don't know how to go on afterwards.
So the latter half of your book focuses on your personal journey as a surviving spouse. How did you find surprising insight and optimism amid profound grief?
It just came to me. It felt like almost immediately after Sam died, it felt like a helping hand was coming down from somewhere. As I said before, I was raised in a secular family and was really taught not to believe in anything spiritual, much less religious. And so this was new to me, but something made me open to it. And this is where everything started to happen that that caused me to accept the help and guidance that I was receiving and the opportunities that started coming my way to do things that I could never really do before. I acted in a play. I've never done that before. I went to an audition after getting an announcement of auditions at the community playhouse in my email, and I thought I'm going to go to that and see if I can get a part. I got a part in the play. I got the female lead. Weirdest thing ever. I rejoined the orchestra I'd been playing in before we got Sam's diagnosis. And after he died, I said, I'm going to rejoin the orchestra. They need violinists. Why not? I did that. I started singing. A friend said, come to karaoke. You don't have to sing, but it's a great group of people. Come. So I went, and I wasn't going to sing. And then I noticed nobody was paying attention to the people who were singing. Everybody was just talking and eating and drinking. And I thought, well, this is safe. So I gave the karaoke jockey a song. And then as soon as I started singing, everybody stopped talking and started looking my way. And I thought, oh, well, this is interesting, but you know, I'll just continue my song until I finished. And, it turned out I can sing. And now I sing at public events. Who knew? I mean, I knew I could carry a tune, but I really didn't think that I could sing very well. But it turns out I can. So all of these opportunities, I started traveling to inspiring places. I went to Antarctica on an expedition cruise. So, I could have just kind of buried myself in, oh, Sam's not here anymore, and just thought, well, maybe 3 or 4 years from now, I can kind of come out of my shell. I didn't do that. I could see that this helping hand was guiding me in a direction that was better than that, and that Sam would have wanted it anyway for me to enjoy my life. So the book is laid out in a way that I'm not sure is correct, but this is the way I was inspired to do it, and I'll tell you why. So what I did is I spent approximately the first third telling about Sam's life and a little of my own and about our marriage together. And there's a very cute and funny chapter about us getting a dog, and then the move to Arizona, which was so inspired. I tell all about that in the book. And then the middle section about, his diagnosis and treatment and eventual death, and even some of the strange serendipitous events that happened before Sam died. Most of them happened afterwards, but there were a couple of weird things that happened. At first, I thought these things were coincidental, but there were too many of them in the end. And so now I call it serendipity. And then the latter third or so of the book is about all the things that happened to me, uh, the uplifting and optimistic things that happened after he died. And so, and the book is uplifting. Everyone who's read it so far, who are friends of mine and could give me feedback, have said, this book was not at all negative. Even the middle section wasn't, I mean, there were poignant parts that made people shed a tear during that section. But they said overall, the book is so optimistic and uplifting. And I was so gratified to hear that. So, and let me tell you something else. I do have some tips for people, for listeners. Um, I would say be open to the guidance that may be coming your way after you lose someone. Don't shut it down out of guilt or feeling like you're not ready. Accept that guidance. Let yourself be led, and be open to opportunities that come your way. You might find that they're very healing. And most importantly, and somehow I knew to do this instinctively, strike a balance between activity and alone time. There will be people that will tell you, keep yourself as busy as possible so you don't have time to think or hurt. I knew that wasn't the right path for me, and I don't think it's the right path for anyone. The alone time is spent to process the enormous change that's just happened in your life when you lose someone. And the activity helps to move you forward. So if you can create a balance of the two, it's really, I think, the most productive and happiest way to move forward. That's my advice.
Yeah, I didn't think. Yeah, that was some. It's fun. Life is crazy because I just realized that my mic was the mic that I was supposed to be using wasn't connected, but you were still able to hear me, right?
Yes, I was able to hear you. Now I hear you better.
Yeah. Oh, so yeah. I didn't realize that my mic was not connected the proper way, but as long as you were able to hear me and my audience was able to hear it, and and that's what life is you get you get things happen in life, and prior maybe like I would have been upset over it, over my mistake, over me messing that up and not realizing that. But I just I laugh it off. I just look at it and be like, it's life. It happens. These things happen. Like if me not cutting on the right mic is the worst that can happen during this interview, then it's okay.
Well, I forgot to do something too. I forgot to shut off my cell phone, which I just did, because maybe you all heard a ding. That was a text coming in, and I always silence my phone before I do a podcast interview, and I didn't today. So we're both human.
Yeah, it happens. It happens.
Let the
But
listeners know.
yeah, yeah. So everyone out there, yeah, just the first part of the interview is gonna be. I probably sound further than usual, but hey, it happens. We're still gonna go. We're still gonna go on. So,
Yeah.
how did the title "Sam with Love" implies a continuation of connection? How do you feel Sam's presence or influence in your life now?
You know, at first, when I started feeling this helping hand, for lack of a better way to describe it, guiding me forward, at first I thought it might be Sam's soul guiding me. You know, later I thought, no, it's more likely God. But I don't know for sure. But I know that being married to Sam really grounded me in a way I never had been grounded before. I started seeing many things more clearly. There were some things that I couldn't tackle while I was married to him, like my impatience. But I was certainly able to make progress on that after he died. And I think he's helping me with it. But you can't know for sure. That's why I say, let yourself be led. You don't know for sure who's leading you. Is it Sam? Is it God? Is it both of them? Does it matter? I see I I see in the manifestation of Sam's soul in that cloudy thing I see after I go to bed almost every night. It's still happening 4.5 years after his death. And as I said before, there's a story in the book that tells how it was confirmed that it was actually Sam. It's an amazing story. I didn't believe in anything like this until this happened. I can tell the story now if we have time. I don't
Well,
know
we
if
have time.
we do.
We have time. We definitely
Okay.
have time.
So after a year of seeing this thing, which changed color a few months after Sam died, it went from being kind of a smoky grayish white to a neon yellow green is the best way I can describe it. And it would just kind of come about 3 minutes after I'd turn out the lights. I'd be in bed. I hadn't fallen asleep yet. I'd just be kind of relaxing in bed in the dark. And I'd see this thing kind of either kind of float around or go in and out, sort of. And it would do so gently, and it would maybe be there for 45 seconds to a minute, let's say. And sometimes it was so subtle in intensity that I wasn't even sure it was there. But other times it would be quite intense. And especially after it changed color to neon yellow green, which I have no explanation. Well, I kind of may have an explanation for that, but it's sort of beside the point. Anyway, about a year after Sam died, I said to God in my prayers, which I'd never prayed to God before, but I started after Sam died. And I didn't know how to pray, so I just kind of made it up. It pretty much amounts to just talking to God. And I said, God, you know I never pray for anything for myself. I didn't like the idea of that. So I'd always pray for other people or, for our country or its constitution or whatever came to mind that I was worried about. So on this one occasion, I said, I'm going to pray for something for myself today. I'm going to make an exception to my rule. What I want, I'm growing weary of not knowing whether this thing that appears after I go to bed is Sam's soul. And I want to know. So I have a plan. I said to God, I said, if this is Sam, would you please make him as vivid as ever, and just make him appear differently somehow, so that I know my prayer is being answered and that it is Sam's soul. If it isn't Sam, then I want closure. So please just give me jet black after I go to bed tonight, to indicate the convincing absence of the phenomenon. If it looked the way it always did, I figured, okay, God, for whatever reason, has chosen not to answer my prayer, and I'd be no worse off. So I was almost afraid to go to bed that night. What if I get jet black? I thought, am I ready to find out this hasn't been Sam all this time? But I couldn't stay awake forever. So I go to bed, I turn out the light, and instead of waiting the usual 3 minutes to appear, this thing appeared immediately. That had never happened before. And it was so vivid. It was more vivid than it ever had been. And instead of floating gently around for about 30, 45 seconds to a minute, it just frantically went back and forth about 4 or 5 times across my view and then gone. So I burst into tears and I thanked God. And I was convinced from then on that what I was seeing is a manifestation of Sam's soul, and that he's still with me, and that he probably appears not just after dark, but I can't see this thing unless it's dark.
Yeah, no. It, it's so I was my sister was working at my wife's and brother-in-law's mechanic shop, and I go see her, and this is like a little bit after my aunt had passed away, and we were very close, and she played a real important part in my life. And I go see my sister, and this lady who's in there just getting her car repaired or whatever. I come into the room, and she's talking to my sister, and she stops, and I look at her, I smile, say hi, whatever, and then leave. Well, later on, my sister calls me and she goes, um, "Remember when you came into the office? The lady was there standing." I said, "Yeah, I remember." She goes, "She saw someone standing next to you," and she described who she saw standing next to me, and it was she described my aunt to the T, and it was and she says she's always with him. She's like she's always with him. She's always protecting him. She's like she's very protective of him, and she makes sure. And my sister was amazed because this lady didn't know my sister. She didn't know what my aunt looked like, and for her to describe her to the fullest, and my sister was like, "Wow." So my sister, as soon as she got out of work, she called me and let me know, and those experiences are real to me. Like, they, yeah, yes, they no longer here physically, but their energy, their spirits, their souls still around you. Their essence is still around you, and it's always going to be around you.
Doesn't it bolster you to know that? It's so helpful.
Yeah, no, it was amazing. It was like you wonder why certain things happen and why you sometimes you feel like um someone's always watching over you. And for me, it's I didn't I, like I'm not a religious person. I don't go to church. I don't. I I'm more of a spiritual person. I do believe in a higher power. I do believe that when people die, they don't leave us. They're still here because they're still energy. So I do believe in those things, and that those that are that that love you, and they're always going to be a part of them is always going to be with you.
Hmm. Yeah, that's what I've learned. And eh, can we know anything 100%? No, of course
Yeah.
not. But that's what faith is all about, and I was a mechanical engineer in my career. I'm a very logical, analytical type who doesn't come by faith in something that I can't prove beyond, prove 100%. I don't come to that easily. But since Sam died, my whole perspective has shifted. There are too many things pointing the way toward toward my toward the things I now believe in, because there's been so much evidence of it. And you can read about near death experiences, and the weird thing about that is that so many of them report similar things. And that tends to lend credibility to those stories.
Mhm.
They can be passed off as just dreams, that people have at the moment of death. But, the neurosurgeon's story that I mentioned before, he says his neocortex was shut down to the point where it was literally impossible for his brain to have perceived these complex images that he experienced. So this is why, all of these things put together really point to our our loved ones' souls being with us after death, going on after death.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's something I truly do believe in, and it's it kind of gives me comfort knowing that though they're always going to be around, and they're always going to be there to help. And it's, even now, like even now with my mom's passing and everything, it feels different from times before. It's more, I'm more at peace now. Yes, I still suffer, I still hurt and miss her, but it's more, I'm more at peace. I'm more at knowing that she's in a much better place and she's no longer suffering. And it's just for me now. I have my moments. I have my days where I'm sad and emotional and everything, but
Mhm.
that's gonna happen. It's still fresh. She's still fresh in my mind. She's still, and it's just with time. With time, things will, it won't hurt as much as it does, but it's just time. It's all I have now is just taking it one day at a time, just day by day.
Right. Right. And I feel blessed that I was able to so optimistically move forward while grieving for Sam. It's just been probably the single most important blessing of my life thus far, beyond having found Sam, and being married to him for over 20 years. I don't feel like I don't feel like I lost something. I feel like I gained something, and now it's time to move on to another chapter of life.
Mhm.
That's the way I feel about it. And what could be more positive or optimistic than that? And I can't believe I've come to this. I'm not that good. So I think I'm being blessed with something that's coming from outside of myself, and I want to help others to have the same more positive perspective on these notions of death and loss. And so, Wise, you tell me when it's time to tell the listeners about a special gift I have for them.
Oh, we're getting to that point. You get the in a few minutes you will be getting the solo screen, and you will be letting people know where to find. Matter of fact, let's do that now.
Okay, because I'm excited about this.
So you're gonna you get the solo screen. Let them know about the books, about what everything.
Okay, great. Okay, so listeners, the best pricing currently available for my book, To Sam with Love, A Surviving Spouse's Story of Inspired Grief, is at my domain inspiredgrief.com. I've discounted the book there. So, and consider getting 2 copies, one for you and one for a grieving friend or relative. So again, that's at inspiredgrief.com. And I'm very excited to make you aware of a special offer. This is a free gift. I reserved some of my most startling insights for a 3-part audio series I've recorded and have made available to you. These important concepts will change the way you think of death and loss. And the best part is they'll remove the obstacles that keep survivors from shedding the guilt and from looking forward happily to the future. They'll eliminate the thoughts and feelings that keep survivors from fully enjoying their lives. I generally offer this series to audiences at my speaking engagements, but for a limited time, I'm offering the series to podcast listeners. The 3 episodes are about, 12 to 15 minutes each. So just visit inspiredgrief.com, enter your email address and your first name, and you'll get free access to the 3-part audio series for a limited time. This is a free gift, so please get the audio episodes. They will help. Inspiredgrief.com. That's it.
All right. I will be putting that when I release the episode. I will be putting it in the description so everyone you can click on the link and get your free 3 episodes. Go out and get the book as well. This has been wonderful. Thank you for being a guest. It's something I needed today, so to be able to speak on this, and I greatly appreciate you being a guest. This is good. This is a good episode. I needed this.
Oh, good. I hope it helped you, Wise, and I hope it helps listeners that may be faced with the same thing that you and I have both gone through. You so many times, and me having lost the love of my life.
Yeah. But it's been a great episode. Thank you. Even though I kind of messed up early with not having the proper mic, but I'll fix it in post production, I think. But thank you for being such a great guest.
Oh, thank you so much for having me.
But don't leave just yet. I'll chat a little bit with you off air, but
Okay.
let me close out the show.
Okay, I'll be here.
All right. Thank you, everybody who's gonna catch this later on. Greatly appreciate it. As always, shout out to my Real Wise fam, Randy J, Poppy J. Love you guys. Big shout out to the boss lady. Love you and appreciate you. Big shout out to my guests, Vicki Goodman, for coming through and sharing her story. And thank you. I really did need this. And as always, a big shout out to all the essential workers out there. Be safe and just keep your head up, everybody. Life is hard. It is hard, but we will get through this together. And I appreciate everyone out there who's tuning in and supporting the podcast. It's greatly appreciated. You know how your boy Wise does it. Peace out.